successful than yesterday, I think. I've managed to get the video working on my laptop, but I've gone back to the old school way of presenting with whiteboards and pictures. Technology is not my strong point. So we'll begin in a few minutes. We'll wait until the time. Till people arrive till 12 o'clock, and then I'll begin. I'm hoping it will be about half an hour, 35 minutes that I'll be talking for.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Well, I think it's working.
It is working. I've just had a little look downstairs. I'll come and quickly poke my face in and say hello.
Is this the right way round?
Hello. Yeah, it is, yeah. Okay. You just might want to pull it in a little bit. Yeah, just to kind of quite see that corner.
That's okay, they don't need the corner.
No?
No.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
You right, you got water, everything?
I have everything I need.
Super duper.
Okay, so I think I will begin. I have a few people watching, and of course, maybe some more will join. So a little introduction quickly about myself. I'm Tracy Atkinson. I work for emperor divers in the Red Sea, and I've been here for 11 years, and I spent 9 of those years actually in Marsa Alam area, which is quite south in the Red Sea, actually in Port Galib in the daily centre there. I'm now in Hurghada. It's lovely and sunny. You probably don't all need to know that if you're not in a sunny country. So I have basically chosen to give you a small talk about the dugongs and the turtles that we get in the South Egyptian Red Sea. Why? Because I just love them, and I thought it's a nice thing, and it's one of the places in Egypt you can go and you see the most turtles. And really, if you want to see a dugong or a sea cow, then this is the place to come to do this. So we'll just talk a little bit about why we have so many here. Firstly, I believe it's because actually down in the south, I've drawn a bit of a map. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it's yellow, and I like to draw maps. This is like the coastline, okay? We have our dive centre is situated here in the middle in Port Galib, and then up and down the coast, not far, 20 kilometres each way, or 25 roughly, we have a series of these seagrass bays. And this is where provides wonderful homes for the turtles and our beloved sea cows. I'll use this again later on because it shows you some of the homes of our sea cows that we have. Because of the seagrass bays, this is why we also have a lot of turtles. We have 2 main types of turtles in Egypt. We'll look at what is a turtle very basically. I just want to give you some brief facts and hope I don't talk too long. Of course they are reptiles. So yeah, they've been on the planet over 100 million years, and they've stayed unchanged this amount of time. They have lungs, so they breathe air, okay? I sometimes forget this stuff when I see turtles and forget they're reptiles. And of course, that means they're also cold-blooded, and also they lay eggs. And we have a few important breeding beaches around in the Red Sea. So this is also one of the areas which we are trying to protect in the Red Sea as a general. We often see them on the surface. I don't have any pictures, but I have with my fish book there. We have mainly 3 types of turtles. This book has 4, but I've never seen the bottom one. So we have the green, the hawksbill, the loggerhead, and the leatherback. But the leatherback is very uncommon in the Egyptian Red Sea. But the other 3s you may be able to see. So they are warm-blooded, they're cold-blooded, like I say, so they have to heat themselves up. So we often see them resting between the bays on the surface, heating their bodies and sunbathing, a bit like we do, I suppose, to keep us warm. So we have some information on how you might be able to distinguish your turtles. Okay, we have 5 which are common in the Red Sea. I'm not sure if you can see this. I might have to bring it up. Depending on their size, it's going to first of all help you to decide which turtle you're going to be looking at. So actually, we find 5 in the Red Sea, and these are my mad notes. Okay, so these are the ones we can see, and some are a lot bigger than others. Okay, and some obviously weigh a lot more than others, and of course these are all the ones we can find here, but they're my things anyway. The main ones that I'm going to talk about is the green turtle and the hawksbill turtle, because these are the most common that we have. So the hawksbill, so because I've gone back to my manual methods, we have to go with pictures and books. This is the hawksbill here. He's one of the smallest turtles. Okay, he weighs about 70 kilograms, still quite heavy, and he can be about 110 centimeters tall. They are called hawksbills because they have like a beak that goes down, okay, which helps them. This is what they use to feed. They actually, you'll find these guys, these are the ones that you'll always find on the coral reef, and they're the ones munching at the turtles, you know, like they're, and they're all over the soft corals and pulling them to pieces, eating the corals and the sponges. They're known as reef cleaners. So they basically go around and help to, you know, sheep and goats go and clean branches. They do the same thing with the corals. So we need the hawksbills to come along and munch our corals, believe it or not. They are omnivores, so they eat both animals and vegetables, the corals, and they'll also eat algae and things like this. So they're not like the green turtle, who is only a herbivore, so he only eats the seagrass. They nest between May to September, and they have 200 eggs every 2 to 3 years, the turtle, this one. Also, they have a big nesting ground in Haggarda, the hawksbills. So then we have the second main one, which is the green turtle. He's the second largest turtle. He's about 1.5 meters, and he can weigh up to 190 kilograms. So he's a lot bigger, and these ones are the huge ones you see, like they're absolute tanks, you know. These guys are, like I say, these are the vegetarians. These are the ones that share their home really with the dugongs, the sea cows, and these are the ones that we kind of see a lot more of around this area opposed to everywhere else, because we have these seagrass bays. They eat seagrass and algae only, nothing else. And basically they're like a bit like cows. They go into the seagrass and they just munch along to this, and they just chew it all up. So they're just keeping the seagrass actually generating itself, growing back. They also nest along the beaches. These are the main ones you find in the Port Galed, Marsa Alam area. These are the main turtles you'll find nesting along the beaches there. A few in Abu Dabab, a few have been seen in a place called Torfa Ali. So we have a few nesting beaches around there. There's not much done at the moment to protect that, but we're trying to, there's a company, you know, they're trying to make this, that this is a big priority for them. These guys also, they nest between May to September. So right now they're nesting, their eggs are being incubated as we speak probably, and they make they make a nest every 2 to 4 years. Okay, there's going to be some times in the year you'll dive in this area and you might not see very many turtles, and there's other times when you're going to see very, very many. A lot of this is because they swim backwards and forwards to their nesting ground. Which is one of the very cool things about the turtles. So a little bit about the turtles in general. They, of course, they're streamlined, their shells are streamlined, they have flippers to swim with and not fins. They're quite slow, they're not very particularly fast swimmers. And of course, they can store oxygen in their muscles, so they can actually hold their breath for a very, very long time, which then, you know, means they'll sleep at night, and this is one of the places we see these quite often, sleeping on some of our dive sites where you have a reef and you can see 10, 11 turtles if you go early morning, like dive about 9 o'clock when they haven't quite woken up, and if the sea's a bit cold, then you'll find sometimes 10 or 11 green turtles all just wedged inside the reef, having a sleep. So they have senses like us, our turtles. They hear, but not very well. They see on land very badly, but underwater they see perfectly, and also can see ultraviolet lights, or in some ultraviolet lights. They are sensitive to touch, so we should never touch them, both on their scaly skin and also on their shells. And they smell by pumping seawater through their mouth and out of their nostrils. And this helps them to analyze chemicals in the water, which helps them to find their food. They're also quite important with the turtles is they basically have a, I don't know if it's a sense, but they have like a magnetic, they can sense a magnetic field, because actually they'll always go back to the beach where they were born to lay their eggs. So somehow they will always find this beach. I did some work in Greece when I was a bit younger with the loggerhead turtles, and we were always told we should never ever pick up the hatchlings and put them in the water. We had to just guide them like around with the sand, so they'd go to the sea. So actually they could find their way back to that beach. This first initial breaking free of their nest and walking to the ocean by following the moon is what actually gives them their sense of the coordinates, maybe, or their internal GPS to find their home again when the females come to lay their eggs. With the eggs themselves, with the hatching of the turtle eggs, well, depending on how warm the nest is, or the incubation in the nest actually will depend on if they have male or females in their eggs. So this is also quite an interesting thing. If it's below 29 degrees, then you will, if it's lower than 29, you have males. If it's higher than 29, then you will get female turtles hatching out of their eggs. I don't know if it makes a difference to them different times of year when they lay their eggs to everything like this. So ways to identify your turtles. So there's some lovely stuff online actually for the Red Sea. There's a few companies that actually are working together, and they're working together also with many different companies in the Red Sea. I've got two here. First is one where they work with HEPCA and Turtle Watch, but also these are joined with a company called Red Sea Project. Okay, they make these lovely identification charts of how to tell which turtle you're looking at. So for you, you can identify very easily if you have a hawksbill or a what have I got here? Or a green turtle. Generally, if you can't tell by size, you can tell by how their shells are formed, by the scales overlapping, if they're overlapping or not, or how many scoops they have in here. Okay, this stuff is all available widely online. Also, another thing they're doing in the Red Sea, so if you've dived the Red Sea and you have some pictures of the turtles, there's a few places doing turtle Red Sea projects, and these are ones that they'd love you to send in their images. Okay, and these are the images they want of how to identify each turtle individually. So by having these 3 photos, its face on either side, and also one from above so they can see the shell, then they can tell you if that turtle's been seen before, so you give them the location, and if they've never seen it before, they log it and you get to name your turtle. So whatever you want to do. So this is a big project. There's lots of people. Red Sea Project have got some nice links on their pages, lots of information on this kind of thing. And they're doing this, like I say, all over the Red Sea, Saudi Arabia, and also up in the north of Egypt as well, because these guys are based a little bit more in the south. So, you know, the turtle, all of our turtles here are endangered in the Red Sea. They are all on the ICUN red list. So actually, we do have to look out for them. We do have to make sure that we are trying to protect them, and any information people have or any pictures they have, then this is great and fantastic for us. So then, you know, obviously they're endangered by fishing nets, boat propellers, all of these things. So we look after these. Well, I love them, so I always look after them. So this brings me to the things that they share. So we're going to look into the sea cows that we have in the Red Sea. It's a very brief talk, or else I could be here forever, and you know, I'll try not to be. So then we're going to move on to our dugong. He is quite special for the Port Galib area and the Mars Alam itself. We have actually down the coast a few more than just one or two, but this is what we're now talking about. He's not a manatee, he's a sea cow. He varies slightly to a manatee. He is, he's got a tail, a fluke tail like a whale. He has a big vacuum face. If you've seen him and dive with him, he's absolutely beautiful. But of course, there's many places in the Red Sea here where you can go and you won't always get to dive with him. You can dive one place 6 or 7 times and he won't be there. You have to be lucky and you have to keep trying. Okay, so don't give up on him. One day you'll see him, and when you do, you will absolutely love him. So he's a member of the sea cows, and there's a few other sea cows in the family. She has a picture somewhere. They are related to manatees, and they are also what they believe the sailors named the mermaids after. Oh wait, I found it now. It's under my words. So this guy here is the Steller sea cow. It's now extinct. It was the largest of them all. This is our dugong. He's quite small. This is what they believe they named, or the sailors, when they maybe drunk too much rum, believed were mermaids in the water. Not sure if that's true, but this is what the tales are saying about the sea cows. So yeah, he's quite big. So this is him beside the diver. He's about as long as we are, okay, underwater. He's a lot bigger and he's a lot wider than us. Actually, he weighs a lot. He weighs about up to 500 kilograms. So the same as a BW beetle, maybe. They are related. Their nearest relative is an elephant. Yes, their most common relative is an elephant. So they come from land mammals. They are distributed quite around the world quite a bit, but their main populations are in Australia along the north coast. Here in the Red Sea, they're very endangered. There's not very many. Okay, they are protected. Okay, and again, these guys, they inhabit these seagrass bays, seagrass areas, because they eat seagrass, and that's all that they eat. Okay, they can only live in salt water, but they have fresh water that they will drink. Yeah, so they must drink fresh water, but they live in the salt water. I've got myself in a bit of a mess with my notes, to be honest. I'm just gonna go with it. So they believe that they believe this is where they meet their mates. Their mates will come, you know, like not like their mates, but when they're coming to mate, they'll go to these freshwater spots, and that's where they'll meet their partners. Because actually they're very solitary in the Red Sea. Actually in Australia they're more herd community, but here you normally just find one in here, one here, and different bays. Yeah. They are pale cream color. As they get old, they turn to a darker grey, so you can kind of guess the age from the size by the kind of color they are. They have lungs on their backs, and this helps them with their buoyancy, their trim. They're quite a big animal to be staying afloat. They sleep same like dolphins. They close their brain half, and then they sleep on the other side. Absolutely beautiful to see. They breathe through their nostrils, so unlike they are a marine mammal like dolphins and whales, but unlike dolphins and whales, they have a nostril and they don't have the blowhole, so they have to always lift their head out of the water to breathe out. And they breathe like every 6 to 8 minutes, depending on what they're doing. Even when they sleep, they'll be on the surface, just below the surface, and they'll be lifting their head and they'll go down. And so this is when we quite often find them when they're sleeping, when they lift up their heads. They don't seem to sleep underwater. They sleep when they're just cruising around a little bit. They, of course, give birth to live calves, but they only ever have one at a time. And then this calf will stay with them for the next 18 months, be by its mum the whole time. So actually, they don't have another baby for a long time. So 3-4 years, they'll have a new calf, something like this. So they are pregnant for about 12 to 13 months, and they give birth to their calves, which are 1 meter when they're born. So they're quite large when they're born. I've never seen a baby one. I'd love to. It'd be amazing. Then, like I say, they're solitary. They have their eyes are very small, so a bit about their behavior, I suppose. And they have very bad eyesight. They use smell to locate food, and they have a sense of touch. They have around their nostril, they have little bristles, little hairs, and this helps them to feel. We have a few dugongs around in the Port Galib area. There's not just one. Actually, since we've been during this COVID time and we've been a bit locked down, it means the guys have been exploring a little bit more some of the shore dives there, and they have found, well, they haven't found another one, but we've now discovered as emperor divers, it's always been there, and other dive centres have known it because they do the shore dive. We've gone to a shore dive and we've found another new dugong. So this means now we have at least 4 in our 40-kilometre radius that we know of, but I actually think there's a few more that we don't see very often. Again, like I said, they have their territories. They're normally only them in their territory. Okay, they talk or communicate via whistles and squeals. Okay, they are very slow swimmers. They are very slow, like 6 miles per hour they swim at, and if they want to go fast, they can go to about 14 miles per hour. They can still outswim most of us, though. They are very fast if we see them. They eat seagrass, and they eat up to 40 kilograms of seagrass a day. So this is up to 7 to 15% of their body weight of seagrass a day, and they only eat seagrass. And they get to 3 meters long, and they basically spend 7 hours a day trying to get these 40 kilograms of seagrass into their bodies. So we have to have a lot of seagrass to sustain them. We have a lot of deep seagrass that we don't know about, and actually they don't live so deep. They live between the surface and 40 meters. This is normally where you're going to find them, more so towards the surface area. What else do I want to tell you? I want to tell you about our dugongs because I love them. Of course, this is my map. I don't know how well you can see it. So in Port Galib, we have basically our main and most famous one. Well, there's 2 in this area that are most famous. The first one is probably the oldest in the area, and this is Dennis. That's actually the one in this book here that I showed you to begin with. So this is actually Dennis, and he lives in Abbottabad. Okay, and he's been around in Abbottabad for a very long time. Well, this picture was taken, it does say at the bottom. I should have looked at that before, but I can't read. No, it doesn't say. But anyway, this is an Abbottabad, but he's been there for a very long time, and he's one of the oldest ones that people have managed to identify or name. Like I say, when we came to the Red Sea in 2009, he was the main one that people came to see, but he had a girlfriend, Lucy, and she had a calf in 2009 at Abbottabad. So there could be possibly 3 just living down in this Marsa Abbottabad area. Of course, as you go further south again, you find more, but if you find a seagrass bay around here, you're very likely to find a seagrass around this area. You then have our second kind of favorite one, most famous, is the one Dyson, which we've named and been reporting on for the last, well, maybe like the first 4 or 5 years, from 2009 to 2014. We took a particular interest in his habits, what he was doing, sightings, where we found him, and he goes between a place called Marsa Mubarak and Marsa Shuna. I would say he spends 85% of his time in around the Marsa Mubarak area and about 15% of your time in Marsa Shuna. He also pops into a very small bay I've drawn here called Hawksbill, and this is where he goes, and this is a very good place to get some fresh water for him to drink. Okay, so this is, sometimes you'll find him and he's very shallow, and he goes on the reef And I think here, when he's going shallow, when he's on the reef plate, then this is when he goes to have a little drink. Then as we head more north, we used to always see a dugong come in and out of the marina as well. Sometimes you'd sit having a coffee and you'd see a dugong coming. Don't know who that was because, of course, we were on the surface. I assumed it was Dyson, but could be one in a place called Rastrombi. This is by boat like an hour away. And this one, I call him Scarface, okay, because he's full of scars. They get the scars from fighting because they have tusks. So when the males are fighting, then they will get the scars. Also from scratching the corals. So they also have to have a little scratch sometimes, and they'll find themselves scratching the corals. So this is Scarface. Actually, he is not very good with divers. And actually, just last week, they saw him on Elite. They spent the day there, and Sonia, the dive guide, she said she saw him for the whole day. Well, not for a whole dive. He was just on our mooring ropes, scratching his back, scratching himself all over this. So yeah, this is Scarface. I've seen him once or twice diving, and if I'm ever underwater with him, he just goes away. Whereas if you snorkel with this one, he's a lot more friendly, okay? Then as we go north a little bit more, so this is somewhere we've never used to dive, but we always heard about this dugong, and I always assumed it was Scarface. But now, I speak a bit, we've seen him a few times, the guys in Master have dived with him. I've not dived with him, unfortunately, but I really want to. A place called Sheikh Malik. And this one, I believe, his name is Ulrich, okay? Okay, Scarface, Ulrich. This one here is much, much friendlier to divers and will spend the whole dive playing with the divers, pretty much. He just comes and circles them and comes very, very close. We put a few videos on Facebook a while ago of some interactions he had with some of our guests with him, and he's very playful and really likes divers and comes very, very close. And actually, so this makes me believe he is not the same as Scarface, because I thought these were the same one. So this would mean at least we have a few more dugongs in the area than we believe, which is very good news. So these are my little mad Dugong map that I've made. But we don't know very much about the dugongs, how they travel, we can't track them. The only way we can track them really is by us ourselves. We used to have these slates, and we used to do their markings, so we manually do it because you're not allowed to, you can't, like turtles, put these trackers on them. Okay, this would stress them too much and possibly cause them to die. So we can't do this. So we have to just go with our drawings of the dugong, and then like we used to do the dive site where we saw them, how deep it was, and then we used to fill in sheep. And all of our divers that used to dive with us, we used to have these outside the dive centre, and we used to actually track the shallows, and you could actually then find a pattern of where he was and where he would be, and make some, you know, rough weather, calm weather, and you could kind of work out his behavior a little bit, but it was very just focusing on the one dugong. I have one out of information. So yeah, so we would love to, you know, this is something that I know also that the Red Sea Project, they also are trying to do something with sea cow and also HEPA as well. So, you know, this is something that we can do. This is almost like if you're diving there, you can take your photos, you can identify your dugongs, because they do all have slightly different markings. And you can then work out where they are. We also have them further down south. We have them in a place called Marsa Egla. He's also a very friendly dugong as well, so he's right down in Marsa Alam itself. And even as you go down to Wadi Gamal, so there's very little known about our dugongs in the Red Sea, which is a shame, but it's something that I would really love to try and get some more help with. They are, of course, they have the dugongs, they're protected, like I said, and they have really, the predators isn't very much. When they're babies, they have predators, but when they're older, really the only thing they then worry about is sharks and humans, I'm not sure what else I want to tell you about dugongs. I know you've been asking some questions, and Luke has been helping me by answering them because I can't do two things at once. But of course, the Red Sea, if you do want to come and see the sea cows, really you do want to be coming down to the Marsa Alam area because this is the best place, the most likely place to find them. And like I say, you're not guaranteed. There's many people I know that dived for many years up here, and they tell me that he's not real. There's no such thing. It's just you have to be a little bit lucky, and you have to try. And you can't just think he's going to come to you. If you want to see the sea cow, you do have to go to these seagrass bays. You might see them in between, you know, swimming along. Quite often we see them from the boats. But then you're never very close to be able to identify who they are, which one they are. And also actually about 2014 or 15, we actually had outside of Mars Mubarak, we had two dugongs together, a big one and a baby one, and we got some pictures from a guest. He could manage to get, he had a big camera so he could manage to zoom in. So they are breeding in the Red Sea. They are, you know, keeping their very small population going, but it's a very small population, is all I think we need to know. And they have a lot of things working against them, but we hope that we can do something for them, and we hope there's a lot of Red Sea projects, conservation projects, that would love to do something to help towards these animals and their beautiful stuff. I haven't got much else to say. I'm not sure what else to say, so I'm going to leave you, I think. If you've got more questions, then you can contact myself or Luke. There's the chat, not the chat, but there's the people thing, and you can private message us on this, where we can help you with some other questions. And women, stop being so naughty, women. Okay. So yeah, so you can always answer, we can ask you a few questions. You'll find our contacts there, and we'll be more than happy to help you with what we know about the Red Sea dugongs. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you to Luke for answering my my questions. So yes, thank you very much. I'm going to leave now, and my mouse doesn't work, she says. I'm going to try and leave. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you soon. Bye.